Episode 25. Wednesday. Good job. Good job. We made it here again. Here in a little bit, guys. It's about 7 minutes. I'm supposed to be on with this marijuana expert. He was on Paul Check's pod, and yeah, he's a marijuana expert.
We'll see if he doesn't cap.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see if he fucking shows up. He should show up. He sounded excited when I Zoom called him last week, and he sounded excited. So it'll be good. It'll be good for our listeners and the people that are just fucking stuck on weed. But now, after listening to his pod, it's like, god damn, it's just most weeds grown like shit. But we'll wait for him to get into that a little bit more. Woke up this morning. I always like to put on a morning coffee playlist or a nice morning playlist. This morning I put on a little bit of George Strait, a little country music. You like any country music, Dal?
Yeah, I do.
Do you really? His mic's not up. You like country music, huh?
Yeah, I do.
What kind?
I have a whole playlist. I listen to like George Strait, Brad Paisley.
Do you really?
Tim McGraw, yeah.
That's when you're getting in your feels a little bit.
Low key a little bit.
I fucking George Strait, dude, is good.
Yeah, he's good. I like him.
I didn't know that. You got a cowboy hat?
No.
Would you ever wear one?
No, I don't know. Maybe depends.
Depends where we were going.
Yeah, if we're going to Texas, yeah.
Damn, I gotta see Dal in a cowboy hat. Other than that, fucking training's been really good after that bullshit sickness. Training jiu-jitsu every day, couple hours a day, in the gi, in the no gi. Last week there was 4 black belts on the mats, but consistently training has been feeling good. And when I consistently train, I consistently start eating better, eating clean, and you just feel fucking better, top to bottom. I'm back on my smoke because I took about 15 days off of smoking.
You back on your TRT?
Oh god, dude, I would love to get me on some fucking TRT. I don't know. I'm trying to think what's the age I'm gonna be going to that doctor's office and say, let's juice me up, baby.
I know. I was
30.
talking to one of my friends yesterday. He said he's on it.
He's in his
and
fire.
he's like my age. He's like 27, 26.
Really?
Yeah, he's on it.
What did he say about it?
He said he just feels good as fuck.
Fuck. I want to do it.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's get juiced up.
Yeah, getting fucking juiced up. Because the thing about getting juiced up is I don't think it's you still got to stay consistent on all your habits.
Oh, yeah.
You still got to eat good. You still got to work hard in the gym. But I think you recover a little quicker. And then, though, if I have that testosterone, dude, and my test is higher than it already is, I'm always got an issue with being horned up for puss. Imagine when the testosterone levels double. Then what happens? That's the end of me right there. Yeah, so yeah, habits been good. Smoke's been good. I haven't got back to the bong or any joints or anything, just the fucking vaporizer bag. And I'm curious to talk to this guy more about the vaporizer bags too, and how much better they are for your health. What we've been watching this show on Hulu called Joe Millionaire. It's a good show, reality show. I think the girls expected to go on a Bachelor. They got there, one guy came out, and then another guy came out. So now it's a competition between 2 of the guys, and one of the guys is worth $10 million, and the other guy isn't. And the girls in their little games, they try to find out. They want the fucking millionaire guy, but they don't tell him. The Bachelor show is a little weird. It's like, okay, they're on this show for 6 weeks, and you think it's fake, Jay? Bachelor ain't fake, champ.
I just don't find these shows entertaining.
The reason I find them entertaining because I like watching
You like the juice,
the people, the way they act, the way they fucking communicate, the way they just like go off the handle. But I like watching that kind of shit.
Like almost like observing them, like how they act and shit. Yeah.
Judging them's fun.
Yeah.
But with The Bachelor, they're hanging out for 6 weeks, a group of girls, and then at the end of the show, he proposes to them to get married.
This is an old show, isn't it?
That's not this one.
Oh, it's not. It's like, do they have new seasons now? Or what? This is not it, Joe Millionaire show.
I thought it was called Joe Millionaire, 2021
Just type in
maybe.
Hulu or something. 2021. Is it like this
Yeah,
one?
that's it. That's
Oh,
it. That's
okay.
The Boys. But dude, The Bachelor's so fucking cheesy. They're literally 6 weeks hanging out with the girls, so they probably get a total of maybe 6-7 hours, maybe a little bit more, and then they propose to him at the end, and just find that fucking true love. But these girls play it good. Like I was telling Mariah, I was like, if these girls saw this guy at a bar, they wouldn't be having this kind of interaction. The reason they're acting just so perfect and so sexy and just being Miss Perfect because they know the game they're playing, and they know their clout's gonna go way the fuck up if they go far in the show. So they just play the game perfect. I wonder how many Bachelor contestants are still together to this day. I bet not that many. Yeah, on the Joe Millionaire one, there's some hot fucking girls. That girl, she's got a baby, and she's got some drama with her baby daddy, so that brings up some issues.
Damn.
Pretty good show though. I like the Bachelor and then this one because it's packed with fucking hot chicks. The Bachelorette's kind of dumb. I don't know, maybe it's not dumb, but it's just not as many chicks.
It's about to be, I think, 11 here.
What oh, here he just
Did he
messaged me.
respond?
Yes, sir. I'll be on in 2 seconds.
Okay. Go. I'll throw you my laptop.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah, we got some more juice to cover too about some MMA news and some other shit. But we'll talk to Ryan Sprague first. Ryan Sprague, like I said, I heard him on Paul Checks. Sounded like a super smart guy, super interesting guy. So we'll try to. If you have family members that are against weed or people that are just fucking stubborn towards it, this might be a good pod for them to listen to. We'll see here though. Did you empty your chi this morning, Dal?
Hey.
Hey, what's up, Ryan?
What's up? Let me get my camera on here real quick.
What's up, dude?
How are you guys?
Doing good. Did a little cold plunge this morning. Had a nice little bulletproof coffee. Feeling charged up, ready to go. How you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic, man. I just got off a couple coaching calls, making myself a nice bag here out of the volcano, and ready to rock, man.
Nice. Double bag brothers.
Dude, yes, man. We'll have bags in each other's honors, you know?
What'd you put in your bag?
So I have some organic tobacco that Paul Check recommended, and I mix it with, right now I'm using some herbs from Grandfather Spirit. I have a bunch of different kinds, but I'm using one called Soul Awakener and one called Blueberry Patch. And I put those together, and it's fan-flippin-tastic.
Dude, I went through a handful, and I was Googling it. I went to a handful of stores looking for, like, organic tobacco, but every time I say that, they seem almost, like, confused on what I'm saying.
Yeah. The only one that is labeled as organic tobacco is Nature's Spirit or something, or American Spirit.
Yes.
And I can tell you, having tried it, there's something up with that stuff. The only one I know of, and they don't list it as organic, but I obviously always trust what Paul says, is in San Diego in Old Town. There's a Old Town tobacconist, which is like a tobacco museum called Racine and Laramie. And that one has really high quality tobacco. So I have buddies ship it in for me when I'm out there. I just had a buddy ship me four 6-ounce bags of it.
Hell yeah. So you just grind it up and then you add it to your weed.
Yeah, I don't even have to grind it up. It's like already it's called cigarette shag. So it's like in the texture, pretty much ground up cannabis already. It's a little bit longer strands, but yeah, it works perfectly. And I combine it with cannabis, I combine it with a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, because for the longest time, every time I heard tobacco, I'd think of something negative till I started hearing Paul talk about it. And I took his healing herb course too. And he was talking about when he likes to get shit done, he likes to do tobacco, and then maybe 20% marijuana in his volcano, vape it up. So is there some good benefits to good quality organic tobacco?
Oh, absolutely. Especially, tobacco is a very masculine plant. So, just like you were saying, when I want to get stuff done, when I want to stay focused, because I am very eccentric. Like this is why I love cannabis so much, because it really accentuates my eccentricness, where my mind just likes to go wild and get into a bunch of stuff, and then time doesn't exist, right? And you can see the challenges that present themselves when you have a schedule, when you have a business and things like that. So for me, when I'm working, I'll put tobacco with some other herbs in there. And my Soul Awakener blend has like gotu kola, yerba mate in there. So I'm inhaling that, and it's a very fast onset. And so I'll combine that with some cacao, and the cacao will open my heart, and the tobacco will center me directly into what I'm doing so that I have a laser focus. And it is a slippery slope, right? Like you can interact with too much tobacco. And of course, nicotine is addictive, but also you can get almost too grounded. Like that's the fine line I've figured out over the last year of experimenting with tobacco again, after 10 years of not touching it at all, was that, if I do too much, I almost feel asleep, right? It's almost like an indica feeling a little bit, but without all the euphoria attached to it. It's just like a blank indica feeling. And so I've been figuring out like, okay, I put about 20% tobacco in and then 80% different herb blends. And that allows me to get my stuff done while still feeling that excitement and euphoria for life as a whole.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And ever since I found out you can vaporize teas and then teas and weed, and then you get the same benefits from teas as you do drinking it if you were smoking it, I was like, damn, I couldn't wait to get a volcano. Now we have a couple volcanoes, and they're pretty awesome. But for you, different highs, like what is your favorite high? Because obviously there's vaporizer, like a good vaporizer, a bong, a joint, a dab. What's your favorite?
Great question, man. I've gone through my phases, pretty much everyone from blunts to pipes to bongs to, dabs. I was huge on concentrates back when I worked in the industry. And then I think we talked about this a little bit, but I went over my, I went through my 2-month tolerance break, right? Where I came back from Vegas and I went through a mystical experience out there with MDMA, where I realized that I was interacting with cannabis unconsciously. Took a big break and honestly had a big identity crisis, because my whole life at that point was cannabis. Like literally I eat, breathe, and sleep cannabis. I worked in the industry, I did consulting for different people's grow ops. And so, I started to be like, well, who is this new version of me? And at the same time, I started to realize that like, oh, well, whatever version of this that I am turning into, I like this. And so around that time, I started hanging out and getting into the world of coaching. And when I went to, my buddy Mark England's Lake House meetup, my buddy Danny Rios brought a volcano. And I was like, this is weird. I haven't seen one of these in years. And at this point, I was vaporizing through handheld vaporizers and things like that. And I found them really beneficial, because as someone who's into fitness and everything, I wanted to make sure like, hey, I'm not messing up my PRs, and those kind of things. So, I'd already been in the realm of vaporizing, but once I got reconnected to the volcano, I never looked back. And it was funny because I'd had one on my shelf for 10 years that my uncle gave me, because he didn't like it when he bought it. And so I dug it back out, and literally I travel with the thing. That's the only thing I use now. I just love it. And, there are some people that say that like, oh, vaporizing gives you almost like the outer edges of the cannabis experience, to use cannabis, for example, whereas smoking gives you that, to use cannabis terms, full spectrum high. Personally, for me, I don't feel that. That could be just a me thing, but I really prefer the high coming from vaporizing. It feels more clear-headed. It feels more lively. And to me, it feels much more like cannabis was meant to feel. Now, whatever that meant to feel thing is, could just be a subjective thing, but I do like the feeling a lot more now that I vaporize.
Dude, yeah, for sure. There's something about when you really want to shut your brain off, taking a bong rip or something, and you just go boom. But with the volcano, you're right. It is like a clear high. I feel like it is what marijuana is meant to be used for. But I have a lot of friends and even family members that are like growers and do all this stuff. But like I said, they wake up first thing, big rip, and then all day, all night. What do you think are the negatives of that?
This is my favorite area to get into, my favorite arena, because I've gone through this. And I've also worked with over 9,000 patients that dealt with very similar issues. And so this is when we start getting into the realm of, this whole idea that cannabis is addictive. And I say that in quotations, right? Because, there's one way to look at it where, yes, you can externalize your personal power and think that you have no power over this planet, that cannabis is addictive and, this kind of thing. But for me, especially as a coach, I start to go deeper. And it's kind of like, I always relate it to how, society says we have a loneliness epidemic. But really, loneliness is just the result of a deeper challenge, which is the inability to connect, right, to yourself, to those around you, and to the world at large. And so with cannabis, it's not that cannabis is addictive. It's not for that for these people, they're waking up and they're like, I need cannabis because I'm literally going to die if I don't. It's that they're feeling some feeling of discomfort. And the feelings of comfort that cannabis bring on, those are addictive, especially if you're working through trauma, if you're working through challenges in your life, because cannabis is a feminine medicine. And so especially for men, I see this happening a lot where they're externalizing their feminine energy onto the plant. They don't have an ability to access their heart, their feminine side, whatever you want to call it themselves, their creative side, their side of inspiration. So they're outsourcing it to the plant. And so over time, they become more and more dependent because they're doing a lot of stuff. Their schedules are full, and they need that almost recognition ritual in the morning and the night, whatever, to enter that feminine side of themselves where they can pull creative things, where they can be a better coach, where they can figure out, new things to do in business, these types of things that have become essentially their identity, right? If someone is the identity of the visionary in the business and they wake up and they're stressed about that, they're going to interact with cannabis to feel a feeling of comfort of being in the visionary role once again. And so this applies to really anything, whether you're an employee, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a martial artist. I mean, anything, can become addictive, or cannabis can become addictive because of the feelings of comfort it brings on.
Yeah. Even someone like who's, say, however old, and they don't even really have a passion or a job, but they just wake up and just smoke to go into this place that just mask all their feelings. It's a crazy thing. And not even that, but most of the weed people are probably smoking is probably just packed with pesticides and shit. Like, what kind of things should our average person look for in getting good marijuana?
Yeah. And, you said it perfectly. Like, no matter what you're doing, and this is what I've worked with and what I do in coaching now is, specifically with cannabis, I ask people like, when you wake up, and let's use this for an example, and you go to touch that bong, like what's going through your heart, right? What's going through your head specifically? And they'll come up and be like, yeah, I'm terrified of what I got to do that day. It's like, okay, cool. Have you sat into that? And so we revert back to, this pattern of a protector, right? Cannabis becomes this protector. But, you can work through that and you can find like a power couple dynamic with cannabis. And that's what, of course I do and connect with cannabis. But with regards to what to look for when you interact with cannabis, I'll go kind of from quantitative to qualitative. And what I mean by that is quantitatively, you want to look for no pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides. You want to look for testing results. Ideally, if you want like the best experience, of course, don't have any, fillers in it of like pesticides and all the things I mentioned. But you also want to go to, if you're in a legal state, you want to go to a dispensary that offers terpene content, explanations, because cannabinoid content on its own will tell you like, yes, okay, that's how fast it's going to go. Like if it's very high THC, like, yes, you're going to feel a very strong effect, but in what direction, right? So without knowing what direction, you're kind of getting in a car that you don't know where it's going and you're hitting the gas full throttle, right? And so, again, the whole indica sativa hybrid thing is kind of outplayed because everything is now hybridized. Now, on the more qualitative side, which is something that I've heard no one talk about this, and this is something I talked about with Paul, is that you want to figure out, not only how your grower is growing it, like, are they growing it with chemical salt nutrients? Because, in the industry, they'll test, plants and final product, and they'll say, oh, there's no chemicals in there, so it's fine, right? But at the same time, human beings can interact with steroids and look amazing, but what do steroids do over time to the human body, right? They break it down and they lead to a whole host of issues. And so no one's really looking into this whole, like, how people grow cannabis, and which is why I'm such a big proponent of organic grown cannabis. It's not because I'm just addicted to the identity of someone who only smokes organic cannabis. It's because I know the signature that's put into chemical salt weed. It's very electrifying. It's very harsh. And the other thing that's even deeper on the qualitative side is, what is the energy of the grower who's growing it, right? Are they going to work every day if they're in a dispensary stressed out of how they're going to pay bills, right? Do they really care about the plant? Are they only worried about money? Because when a cultivator cultivates a plant and then someone else interacts with that plant they've grown, they are going to be interacting with the level of consciousness that grower is at. So if you use David Hawkins' scale that he uses in Power versus Force of consciousness, if someone is, say, way down in the level of like 20 to 50, which is like guilt, apathy, shame, and they're interacting with cannabis and growing it, the person who interacts with that is going to have to break through that barrier, right? Is going to have to deal with a lot of that consciousness, which is why I always say that cultivation is literally a metaphor for self-development. Because in order to really grow a plant, like beautifully, what do you have to do? You have to give it sunlight, right? Or a high quality source of light. And if you're growing inside, we can get into the rabbit hole of applying biogeometry to your grow rooms to balance out the energy and the EMFs. But, you're going to have to give it clean water. You have to give it clean food. You're gonna have to go out and talk to it, right? It's a process, right? And it's delayed gratification, so that if someone grows the plant the right way and they're not trying to speed it up with chemical salts or any of these, bloom boosters or anything like this, if they're patient with the plant, their level of consciousness that gets put into that plant is going to be one that's more calm and centered. And then whoever interacts with that plant is going to feel the effects of that, the energy and the work that person put into themselves in cultivating that plant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And that's freaking awesome, because you hear a lot of people too that like, oh man, they smoked weed once and I hate weed. It just makes me anxious and gives me a lot of anxiety. I'm like, well, first of all, if you want to drink some alcohol, you don't just chug a fucking 12 pack and then be like, oh, I don't like alcohol. Like, first of all, the dose, but then when people say that marijuana gives them anxiety, I'm always thinking, I'm like, damn, maybe you smoked some weeds that was just blasted with pesticides or grown by some depressed person. I don't know how much you heard of me talking about, though, when someone first starts smoking weed and they get anxiety and they get all this stuff, like how much of it has to do with a bunch of pesticides and grown by a depressed person under fake lights. But in dispensaries now, is it required for them to put on the label like no pesticides, no herbicides? Is it required?
Yes, in most states. Now, again, I'll speak to Massachusetts because we have some pretty good testing here, and I know that that's like a big thing. But let me just tell you something that happened in the industry here. So you might remember a couple of years ago, the whole kind of crisis that happened with vaporizer cartridges. I don't know if you remember that, where like people were like getting this really bad lung disease from certain constituents that were going into black market illegal cartridges, right? Well, the thing is that when that happened, Massachusetts took it really seriously, and when they were like, we're not even going to sell any legal ones that have been tested, right? We're going to like really figure this out. And all of us were kind of like, well, if they're legal, they shouldn't have any of these fillers in there that are, from the black market. And so they ended up retesting all of our cartridges, but for like an expanded test, right? They added in a bunch of new things, and they were finding that even these cartridges that were made, professionally, that, did test negative for all of the original things, were actually leaching metals into the from the cartridges into the actual medicine. And so as people were heating it up, they were leaching a lot of these other things into the actual medicine. And so, even though they, in terms of growing, yes, there's no pesticides, fungicides, et cetera, there's so much more of the spectrum that we might not have even figured out yet. And that, I think the real next thing is going to be chemical salt nutrients, right? Because again, these are very common in the industry. I would say, 90 to 95%, and probably even more than that, of legal cultivation operations are using chemical salt nutrients. And they're doing all the quote unquote right things. They're flushing, they're doing all the things, but what is the energetic signature of putting like essentially food that's in salt form into your plant, right? It's like, who knows what that's actually doing to the vibrational energy of the human being, because most of what we think about with the human being is very logical. We don't think about ourselves as vibrational beings. We don't think about any of this stuff. Yet at the same time, there is actual science out there in biogeometry and whatnot to speak to the effects of EMFs, the effects of, different quality, foods and things like that in the human body. So I think that's one of the areas we're going to see really ramp up in the next 10 years. Yeah,
especially with all these big money makers probably going to take it over. They just don't give a shit. Just get it out get it out in pounds.
Yeah. I call those the Chads and Brads, or the Chad in-laws, where it's like, they ran from cannabis their whole life. They didn't inhale in high school, and they were in finance or real estate 2 years ago. And then this was projected to be the industry they made money in next. And so here they are. That's the energy,
I like what you said the other day when we were talking about having every time you smoke, kind of having an intention. And how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, great question. So the idea of intention is a hot topic right now. And it's really like it's funny how these new hot topics, coaching, intention, presence, right? Any of these things are, so new age, quote unquote, but actually they're the most simple and most like human nature, things out there. And so a lot of what I see with intention now is people taking it really seriously, where they're like, I want to become an infinite starseed in the nebula galaxy, right? And they almost make it like not fun. What I tell people with intention is intention can be as simple as, I'm going to hit this bag and I'm like, after this bag, I am going to be happy. And I hit that bag, right? If you're with some friends and you're all passing around a joint, it's like, we're all going to be more connected at the end of this joint. You just put you're essentially spelling, right? You're articulating something, and words have power, right? With my word I create. That's what abracadabra actually translates to from Aramaic, language. And so, as you're speaking that into existence, you are creating your own reality based around that. And it's one of the areas that I find people get the biggest like early ROI when I start talking about cannabis the way that I speak about it, because I know a lot of this stuff is like kind of out there, right? Like if you had told me I'd be talking about this 10 years ago, I would have never believed you, but here I am, right? And so, for anyone listening, the next time you go to hit a joint, literally put a simple intention on it. Like, I'm going to feel excited after this, right? I'm going to feel, passionate about the important work I'm doing in the world. I'm going to feel creative. I'm going to feel more loving to my partner. Do anything that kind of meets you where you're at, right? If you are someone who's advanced spiritually, yeah, try an advanced one, right? Talk about accessing the Akashic record or something like that. But really just a simple one of like, I'm going to be happy at the end of this. I'm going to figure out a solution to the challenge I'm currently facing after I interact with this, and start having cannabis, because what you're doing is that cannabis is a feminine medicine, like I talked about. So it's all creativity and planning, but no action. We as the human being in the equation have to act as the masculine role, whether we're female or male, to give that intent, that direction. So cannabis goes, oh, that's what you want? Yeah, I'll help you get there, right? Now, the process of you getting there might look very different than what you imagine. Mm-hmm. I'll give an example. So I was with a buddy of mine, and we were about to go play a game of Frisbee in the yard. It was like 4 or 5 of us. And this was in the summer when it was not 10. We're going to enter some cannabis first. So I pack us a bowl and we're going to hit the bag, and I go, hey, make an intention. What's your intention? And he's like, hey man, his dad was going through some cancer and just a lot of heaviness he was carrying. He's like, I just want to let it all go, man. I want to let it go. I want to have a good day. Right. And so the rest of us make our intentions. We go outside, we hit about 2 bags worth of cannabis. We go outside, we're all sitting down, kind of like looking a certain way. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, I don't know, man. I feel weird. And I was like, all right, let me know how you're feeling in a couple minutes. A couple minutes later, I come back. He's like sheet white, and he's starting to sweat. And he's like, dude, I don't know. I don't feel good. Something's like going wrong. And then he just bursts out sobbing, right? Like in front of a bunch, like not in the situation that he thought that was going to happen in, but he let it all go. Right. And at the end of it, I coach him a little bit through it. And at the end, I go, hey, what was your intention? And like the smile that lit up on his face, and he was like, oh my God, that's the potential. So that's what I mean, where, the intention you put, that's the goal, but it's not the process of how you get there. So surrender to the process of how cannabis helps you get there, or whatever you're doing, the water you're eating, the food, the water you're drinking, the food you're eating, whatever you're interacting with, surrender to how it gets you there, but have the goal in mind. That's what intention is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's real good stuff, and I think it's important for people to hear, because I have my diet pretty well in line, and I work out a lot. So every time I smoke, I automatically when my high hits me, I start being grateful for all the small things around me. But I don't think everyone has that dialed in. I think if you're eating like shit, you're not exercising, and you're just fucking taking those rips to the dome, I just don't think it's beneficial.
It's numbing.
Yeah, numbing. One thing you said, because we've been exploring a little bit with some quality MDMA, but more in like party settings, not a ton, but here and there, a couple times a year. But you were talking about the other day of MDMA and then doing some breath work on it.
Yes. So, MDMA is, of course, now we can talk with a little more confidence, because the phase 3 trials are out and they're getting ridiculous results. And it's no longer just considered this, party, quote unquote, drug, but it is really fun at parties. Right. And, I've had my fair share of festival experiences and things like that, and had incredibly life-changing experiences. I talked about the one in Vegas, of all places, where I started my whole business pretty much from that experience. But, when I started interacting with MDMA in more of a, with other coaches and people that had a lot of, tools in their tool belt and fun things. I remember the first time it actually started with LSD, where I tried breath work on LSD, where I was at a retreat and a facilitator, led a journey of LSD. And so I did a cannabis ceremony within that, right? This is one of the things I do in my program. And so I led everyone through some music and some somatic release with cannabis. And at the end, I was like, hey, we're all feeling so connected. Everyone was, really feeling good. And I was like, let's hold hands. Let's do a couple ohms, a quick Paul Chek exercise. Let's get harmonized to each other's energy. Let's rock around in breath work, see what happens. And at this point, I had no idea what was going to happen. So we rock around in breath work, and I'm talking quick, in through the nose, out through the mouth, 10 very fast, deep breaths with a hold and squeeze at the end. All of us blasted off so hard that it was literally farther than I had gone on DMT or anything I'd been on. And we came back into our bodies all at the same time. And all of us looked at each other and then hysterically started laughing. Had no idea what was going on. And so I realized there, I'm like, okay, there's something with breath work. Now, what I imagine is happening is that, things such as, the endogenous DMT that's released when you're doing breath work are combining with, in that case, LSD, in other cases, MDMA, the DMT that's released with psilocybin, et cetera. And they're potentiating it essentially. And so a couple months later, I had my first go around with MDMA at like a house party where I was with a bunch of my coaching buddies, and I took my business partner into the other room after the facilitator had given us our dose. And I was like, hey man, you got to try something with me right now. And so we're just starting to come up, and I rock around a breath work with him. And legitimately, it was like, I can't put it into words what happened, but it was like my soul immediately was like, uh-oh, he figured out that button. Like there was like this like hysterical childlike laughter, almost like I had opened my Christmas presents before Christmas morning, where like my whole body, as soon as I blasted off, everything turned into like a full body orgasm. That's the only way I can think about it. And my buddy Alex, he literally like, he's a jujitsu guy, so you'll understand this. He did the perfect, we were sitting down in crisscross applesauce. He like rolled back perfectly, finding his fascial lines, rolled back up and was like, oh my God. Like it was absolutely incredible. And so, again, this isn't medical advice, but breath work and, plant medicines can be very profound. Just be careful, because with psilocybin, I've found it's almost too much. Like I legitimately whited out one time, and like I felt like I control alt deleted my whole entire life, and then came back in roughly 3 to 5 seconds later. And very similar to 5-MeO DMT, if you've experienced that before. So yeah, definitely take some caution. Sit down, lay down. But
Crazy.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
I think on our Zoom we haven't upgraded it yet, so I think we have 3 more minutes, but I don't want it to just shut off. I don't think it'll just shut off, will it? Hard to say.
It might. If it does, we can just restart a meeting,
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I wanted to let the listeners know too, because you have a marijuana course, right?
Yes.
Which is a big thing. And what all comes with the course?
Yeah. So the course is called Connect with Cannabis. It's a 10-week certification program where essentially like the ways in which I've been talking about cannabis with intention and all of these things, you can learn to do that both for yourself and for those you serve, right? Because who we see going through our program are coaches, facilitators, healers, nurses, people that are of service, doctors, people that are, in the realm of, some type of healthcare, whether physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And they're looking to interact with plant medicines, yet right now legality has it that cannabis is really the least stigmatized, the most available, and it's really like the one that requires the least amount of time to have a positive experience with. Ayahuasca is fantastic, but you got to go to a jungle, you got to figure out how you're going to do that, you got to pay for that. Cannabis you can do in your living room. And so it's a gigantic industry and $98.6 billion industry right now. And yet there's no guidance, right? Like I know, because I came from the industry, like there's no one telling people how to interact with this or what this medicine actually does. And so basically what the program is it's a 10-week program where you're going to learn 8 different ways to include cannabis into varying modalities, from somatic release, from musical therapy, from communication styles like nonviolent communication, from inner awareness journaling exercises, to creating a ceremony out of every aspect of your life, taking dietas each week from cannabis to prolong the transcendental properties. We also have all of the science in there too, of everything about how cannabis works, with everything from the endocannabinoid system to the CB1 and CB2 receptors, to how cannabis interplays into the nervous system, how cannabis helps you play, how cannabis helps you foster deeper connection, how you can have better sex with cannabis. I mean, we literally opened up a can of worms with this program, and we've been having so much fun with it. So yeah, it's a 10-week certification program. You'll be hopping on live when you sign up for a group coaching call every week, where the whole group comes together and we talk about our experiences from that week's modules. It's so much fun. We have the best homework on the internet. I'll go down saying that.
Sugar and I haven't tried your weed yet, but we freaking can't wait to, because Paul raves about it. But yeah, people can have direct access to you on asking on grow information.
Yeah.
You in the course, will you teach them to grow, or?
Yeah. So this course, Connect with Cannabis, is more based on like practitioner training, right? So how to work with cannabis as a spiritual aid and ally, both for yourself to do your own inner awareness and dialogue with, but also to do that with other people. The course we're coming out with, which is called Grow with Cannabis, is going to be everything to do with grow. That being said, you know, if you're in the program, you have access to me 24/7, at least when I'm sleeping, or except when I'm sleeping. But, you know, you can ask me grow questions. I love doing that. I offer grow consultations. So if anyone listening is like, hey, I'm curious about how to learn how to cultivate organic medicine, reach out. I have a link in my link tree that you can book a call with me, and we can kind of figure out what your goals are, and then figure out, you know, if you need my help at this point, or if like, hey, you got some things set up and I'll help you with that. And then when you're ready and you get set up, you can reach out to me. But, you know, really that's my passion, is, you know, educating cannabis, you know, because it's the most misunderstood plant medicine there is, right? It's the most widely used and the most misunderstood. So I've been having a ball doing it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And definitely, if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would definitely jump on a course or something like that, to where I can be into something, to guarantee if you know how to grow marijuana and you're super into you know a lot about it, you're gonna have work. No matter what, you're gonna have work anywhere. But so what about dabs? Are dabs a healthy way to smoke?
So, you know, this is a little bit of a rabbit hole, because I would say yes and no, right? So always the context matters. Like, you know, me as a practitioner for cannabis, I always ask, like, what is the reason you're looking for something that potent, right? Is it because your tolerance is too high? Maybe you need a break for a little while. Maybe it's just like, hey, I just really enjoy interacting with cannabis in that form. I get that, right? But it's also like, you know, it's first gaining the awareness around why, and then the next one is how. So how are you interacting with it? Are you interacting with something like BHO that's made with a solvent like butane or propane or hexane, or any of these, you know, solvents that, again, you know, they remediate it out of there, they remove it out of there. But, you know, again, you've all seen the ads. If you were, you know, around asbestos, you know, call this number, you're entitled to compensation. So how long before we realize that, hey, what we thought was a small enough ppm of butane available in the medicine that was, you know, safe, is now not safe. And so for me, I enjoy a dab every once in a great while, but for me, it's only solventless, which comes from ice, water, and pressure. So essentially what I love more than anything is what's called live rosin. So they cut the plant down and they cryo freeze it to preserve the terpenes, and then they'll make bubble hash out of it, and then they'll press the bubble hash in a rosin press, which basically is just a press that you like either crank or press a button, and it presses the hash in this scenario between two pieces of parchment paper, or if you're doing it real, there's a screen you use. And then liquid will come out of the sides like this goopy material. And that's what I enjoy, because that experience is, you know, especially if you're hitting it off of like a really nice clean nail with a really nice quartz banger or something like that, you get the most flavorful experience of cannabis, I think, available. And so that's why I mean that, like, it could be yes and no, right? I know plenty of people that were interacting with dabs right when they woke up because they had such a high tolerance, and it was like, okay, well, you know, is that working for you, right? If they believe it's working, then cool, there's nothing to change, right? But for a lot of people, they go to dabs because nothing else is working. And I think that's when it becomes a problem. But if you're a connoisseur, right, and you enjoy interacting with like, you know, it's kind of like if someone likes alcohol, they're not an alcoholic, but every once in a while they want to drink some Blue Label and just taste the taste of it. That's what I feel is like a yes. And then the more no side is like, well, if you feel like I need to get the effect and I need to essentially numb out whatever's in there, and I'm willing to go any way to do it, I think that's when it becomes a no.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So if you're going to the dispensary, what kind of, if you're getting what should you look for?
Yeah. So there's, one of the things that we're actually making as a lead magnet right now, because we feel it's so powerful, is, questions to ask your bud tender, because from beginner users to experienced users, like there's not a lot out there in terms of like, again, it's like, just go for the highest THC, right? That's like usually what you see. But at the end of the day, there's so much more to cannabis than that. And I'm not saying that high THC is bad. It's just like, what's your reasoning? Do you have a lot of pain? Okay, cool. Maybe you need something 30+%, right? But if you're looking to be creative, 30%, at least for me, and I know for a lot of people I work with and worked with in the industry, is going to blast them, and they're going to be couch locked or like paranoid as hell, and they're not going to be able to get what they need to get done. So some of the things that I look out for specifically, always see if you can find organic cannabis, right? Like in Colorado, there are some great places. In California, there are some great places. Again, I don't know the names off the top of my head, but do some research. Like if they're organic, they're going to state it, right? Because it's a moneymaker, and I'll just say it straight up, and it should be, right? Because it's craft cannabis is really what it is. And so, if you find a place that does organic cultivation, some great questions to ask is, hey, what method of organic cultivation are you using? Because some people use organic bottled nutrients, which I'm not going to, say are bad or good, but I prefer no-till, all soil cultivation. And so that's the first question to ask. And then the second one is, this is the one I would ask, but I understand this would be a little weird for some people to ask, is like, hey, who grew this? Like, what are they like? Can I meet the grower? Which sometimes is not accessible. And I realize that, but really it's just, when you walk into a dispensary, I try to feel out the vibe in there. Like, are the bud tenders really excited to be there? Does it feel like they have some room to be themselves there? Or does it feel like I'm walking into an Apple store, right? Because for me, my cannabis, I don't want anything to do with the vibe of an Apple store, right? And so that's like kind of the feeling I look for when I go in. Of course, asking if it's organic, asking what the cannabinoid rating is, what the terpene rating is. But you're only going to really know like what to look for in those realms if you kind of understand yourself with regards to cannabis. And that's what we really made the program for. So you could figure out like, hey, what do I actually like about cannabis? What does it do for me? And a lot of that comes when you take a break. The same way that, if you're codependent on a partner, right? And maybe you get frustrated with them often, and then they leave for a week. And you're like, wow, man, I really miss how they used to make my meals for me, and they used to wake me up, and they used to leave me little notes. Like, you actually figure out what you love in the absence of that thing. And so that's why I tell everyone, if it's been a while since you've taken a break from cannabis, take 3 days off, and you'll start to really be able to understand what cannabis does for you and write those things down, right? Like figure out and start to have a working relationship, because this is a living entity. You can commune with it. You can conversate with it. It's just that most people don't believe they can. And so that's where their relationship ends.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome advice. So for something to be labeled organic, for a marijuana to be labeled organic, does it have to be grown by the sun?
Not necessarily. And actually, it's not going to be. So the term organic is going to be challenging too. Now that I think about it, because I believe the people that have a patent for like the term organic is USDA, it's federal. And so because cannabis isn't federally legal, they have to be really careful of how they use terms. So what I would look for is no-till grown. That's one thing. They might use this term, Korean natural farming, or like regenerative agriculture. You can ask them like how it was grown. If they say like, oh, it's grown in no-till beds or no-till pots, which essentially means that they're creating a soil and then they're putting a mulch layer on top. And over time, they're pretty much mimicking the forest, right? Where no one comes around and tills the forest. What happens is the leaves fall down, they decompose, they create food from all the microorganisms in the soil, and it keeps the whole system going. And so you're essentially replicating the soil food web inside. And so one of the other things, and this is something that I don't know anyone else is doing so far with cannabis, except a couple of people in Sweden with hemp, but and this is something that I've been working with different dispensaries on at this point too. And of course, with many cultivators that do at home cultivation is, balancing out, you mentioned the sunlight, right? Of course, the sun is extremely powerful, right? Like I'm never going to say that you can grow cannabis and get the same power as the sun with grow lights. But that being said, let's talk about what about grow lights is so challenging. It's the EMFs they put off into the plants, right? They make them really buzzy. And that's again, why a lot of people feel this buzzy, like anxious feeling when they interact with cannabis. And so there's a modality that I do called biogeometry, and it's an amazing organization. And essentially, it's a rabbit hole, but if anyone's interested in, they grow inside, but they're looking to balance with their lights, that's a great way to go as well. Now, that's not something you can really check for in a dispensary because no one's going to know what you're talking about yet anyway, but I plan to change that.
Hell yeah, sweet. Well, dude, that's perfect. Thank you so much for all the good information. I think it's going to help a lot of people out because there's not many people out there like you, like teaching about it and that are super knowledgeable about it. So, dude, thanks so much for coming on, and I'll definitely put your link tree in the bio and stuff.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, pleasure to be here, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and so excited to connect with your audience.
Hell yeah, Ryan. Can't wait to try your medicine too.
Hell yeah. Thanks, bro.
Okay, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Man, that's good shit, dude. Because half the time I just find weed. No one knows shit about weed. You just smoke it, think it's all the same, but it definitely, obviously, isn't all the fucking same. Dal, you want to smoke up with me once he sends me some organic stuff? Test it out a little bit?
Get a hit.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. We're coming up on an hour. Or 47, sorry.
What do you got going the rest of the day, Jay?
I just got to edit this. Takes me like 2 hours and hopefully start the LA vlog.
And then training.
Train later, yeah.
Training tonight should be good. I finally got the lease or whatever to the new gym. Oof. So everything's looking good for the new gym. I just literally have to find someone to lease out my place. Which shouldn't be that hard. It's fucking a nice ass place, storefront, not that expensive.
Yeah, I feel like that plaza's everybody always hops on it too when there's an empty space.
Yeah, it seems to go quick. But man, I'm ready for a lot of work once I get that new gym. But just like the gym we're in now, it was over months that it got to where I wanted to be. This weekend we're supposed to be going out. This is going to come out tomorrow, so hopefully Sono hasn't landed. Got a little treat for Sono. A little Tyler Tats treat when the limo pulls up.
Yeah, what's the plan for the weekend, I guess?
Well, we were supposed to have a table in Scottsdale at Riot House, but then the manager texted back and said they want $3,000.
Good thing we didn't post that shit.
Huh?
Like I said, good thing we didn't post that fucking flyer I made.
Yeah, which is weird to have Sugar Shane there and putting stories, but...
You would think, yeah, like... I know this guy was a club promoter. He hit me up a while, like, hey... And he kind of offered, like, yo, you guys can come here and everything. You know what I mean? Free, obviously.
Yeah.
$3,000.
Yeah.
The fuck these niggas?
Not a big issue, but then we're going to do a little private showing of the Jackass on Saturday. And then paintball Saturday morning.
Oof.
So that'll be fun.
What time is the Jackass thing?
5.
Okay.
5, I think, at the Arrowhead Theater.
Okay. It's just like...
It's just us in there.
Only?
I don't know. I fucking have no idea, dude. So that'll be good. Yeah. Jay, so if I find some good organic weed from my boy Ryan, take a little puff. Give it a chance.
Well, he'll take a little... Just blow it out.
He's probably just smoked trash shit.
I don't know. I feel like I don't feel like not everybody, needs to smoke weed. I wonder, like, how you feel, like, what about it that you like?
Yeah.
Because I feel sometimes I talk to Anissa, I ask her, like, how do you feel, like, what do you like so much about it?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if, like, coffee gives me the same feeling or just naturally, like, you know what I mean? Like, is it a dopamine type thing that just makes you feel good or, like...
Well, I think, I forgot who said it. I think it was Sam Harris who said it. It's just like, it opens up different neural pathways in your brain. So if I'm thinking one way about a subject, if I smoke some weed, maybe I'll look at that subject a completely different way.
Right.
For me, it helps me... like I said, certain strains help me be way more creative and then just help me more enjoy the moment.
Do you think, like, there's people that don't need that to think different, I guess, to look at it at a different perspective?
I'm sure there's different drugs that help do that.
I think everybody's so different.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but I mean, I'm down to try some organic stuff. You're probably right. I just always think about just being in high school and just smoking weed. Literally, I would almost be like panicking. Like, I would write notes to myself, like, do not smoke weed again. Like, and I try to, like, say how I'm feeling. So I remember, like,
don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe when I get that stuff from him, we'll do a nice low heat on that and just try it out.
Yeah, I'll try it.
Might be nice.
Get Dow just fucking stoned as fuck.
Big Dally took his... You're on your second class of jiu-jitsu now? That's good. Yes. That's good. The thing about jiu-jitsu is like you're guaranteed gonna get your ass whooped, and you're guaranteed to gonna be in some uncomfortable situations, but that doesn't mean they're bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you gonna stick with it, you think?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a rhythm of like working out and then going to jiu-jitsu, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, and then like my work schedule, so it's like, fuck.
I feel like for you, I feel like you should just tighten up your diet and do more jiu-jitsu than working out.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like lifting too.
Yeah,
like, you know, it makes me feel strong.
It's a little juice head.
Mm-hmm.
he
I like
wants to be
lifting
like
too.
Brad.
Some people like lifting. Do you want to be like Brad?
I mean, not as big as Brad, but like a good.
He likes that lifestyle.
Just fucking
like
solid.
Lifting heavy.
Yeah.
And, you know, big Brad.
So would you rather bench 300 pounds and squat 350 and deadlift 350, or be a blue belt in jiu-jitsu?
Blue belt.
Yeah, that's an easy answer, I feel like.
Like, at least you can tap somebody out. You at least know, like, if something ever happens, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
You know.
And then you go with a good blue belt, and then you go grapple with someone really strong. It's like the blue belt feels stronger than the fucking strong guy.
I know everybody always tells me you're so fucking strong, and I just laugh in my head. I was like, dude,
Can't lift 100 pounds.
I'm like 139, and everybody's always like, you're so fucking strong fucker. I was like,
It's just the grip.
it's just technique though.
Yeah.
But it
It
could
is.
be just like my grappling strength just through the years of grappling. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Well, knowing where to apply your pressure and when to apply the pressure, it makes you feel just like a fucking tank on top of you.
Yeah.
And good techniques makes people. I remember the first time I went with a black belt. I think I wasn't even a blue belt yet. I went with a good black belt. I was like, what the fuck, dude? This guy makes me feel like I'm nothing. He feels so powerful. And I knew I was stronger than him weightlifting wise, but he's just so ahead of me on the moves. He made me feel just worthless.
Yeah, it's wild how clueless people are. And I always think about it too, because sometimes like we'll see like someone else that like does jiu-jitsu out and about,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll tell Dad like, yeah, he's a purple belt or he's a brown belt, and Dad's like, damn, I would have never knew he could like.
Fuck me up.
Yeah. So it's wild, like sometimes how clueless people are too. You know, like if
You
they
just
see,
never know.
yeah,
Yeah.
to fighting in general.
Is your dog babe, or is it
Rue.
potty trained?
She's starting to go more on her pads now. Sometimes she'll slip up, but
Do you
'Cause-
beat her?
no, I just.
It's
Because I don't know. I
to
watch
spank a
videos and
puppy.
stuff. I watch videos and they said like don't like fucking beat them because they're gonna get confused and think that just peeing or pooping in general is bad.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be like trying to hide the poo and pee type thing. I don't know, but it's weird though
Makes
because
sense.
we can't like put her out yet because she doesn't have all her shots.
Mhm.
So we just I don't know. Hopefully when she gets all her shots and we start taking her outside, obviously like
Yeah, definitely. Probably because in apartments it's a little bit harder to potty train a puppy. But it's hard for me too to spank puppies. But I remember seeing, I think most people just go off how they saw their parents disciplining a puppy, like putting their nose in their piss.
yeah.
And
You know what I was thinking too is like nobody ever like obviously teaches you how to raise a pup. You know what I mean? Like, remember back then they didn't have like YouTube and shit like that. So it's like, and I feel like that's why a lot of puppies or dogs are just like kind of crazy. I think like my first dog, I was a kid. I had it like it wasn't intended to be my dog either.
Mhm.
It was like gave to me like I don't know, it was like through my ex and stuff like that. So like I didn't want to raise a dog, you know. And then my mom ended up keeping it, but yeah, there has to be like some structure to it, because if not, they're just gonna be super crazy and you just can't even take them anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why with this pup, I want to like make sure she's trained good and I could just take her wherever and she's good.
Yeah,
I
for
feel
sure.
like Frenchies are more laid back though, so.
Are they?
Right
Yeah.
now she's crazy, bro.
Right now, she's just super hyper, like a little pup going everywhere.
Damn,
Dal
that's
never
pretty
had
cool.
a dog.
Yeah, I had one, but like I don't know.
Just kept her outside
and
in
didn't really know how
summer
to like
heat.
raise them and shit. You know.
Damn, that's what I was thinking for
I
you.
just want a little dog, just
a
like
little ferret.
no.
Why?
ferret.
I want a dog, not like a ferret.
You know what the legal
What's wrong
thing-
with a ferret?
I just don't. It's not my style.
My
You look like a ferret guy.
No, I
Okay.
don't. You guys are just
Get a little
capping.
gerbil?
Yeah,
No, I
or a
wouldn't-
little
no,
iguana.
I
That'd
wouldn't.
be sick.
I would just be like, here you guys go. You guys can have it back.
All those birds,
I'd
those
rather
birds
take a
that
dog.
mock you.
No, that'd even be worse.
Little bird that talks shit.
And then I'm all fucking a girl. He's all repeating the same shit
Yeah.
he says.
Daddy.
Yeah. Too early. Too early.
I don't need that.
Did you ever want another like weird type of animal? I never was like.
I thought you have a snake.
When I
Maybe
was
like
a
a
kid, I had a
turtle.
couple like of those $7 lizards, the ones that the tails fall off and then they grow them back. But then one of my lizards jumped into the furnace.
Whoa.
It's fucking gnarly, huh?
That's scary.
Another one of my lizards, my stepmom left out in the sun.
Dude, the other
Fucking
like a
torched
ferret
him.
is wild because I've seen a video where something like it kills a baby or something or scratched up the face.
Ugh, mean
Fuck
little
that.
ferret.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean every ferret's like that. My
Oh,
grandpa
it
used to have
does.
ferrets.
They're just fucking squirming. Dude, snakes freak me out.
Yeah.
Do they?
same. I do. I
Why?
hate
They're
snakes,
so
bro.
fucking weird.
What do you hate about them? You can stomp them.
They'll
Yeah, then they
fucking
just bite you real quick.
They're
See,
slick.
reptiles like that don't really.
What scares you? A buffalo?
A buffalo.
What scares
I feel like
me?
he would like a buffalo.
Buffalo cheese?
Fucking a grizzly bear.
Really? Yeah.
My
Why?
dad got charged by a grizzly bear one time.
What'd your dad
He was
do?
in Yellowstone National Park, and he had a moose tag for a moose, and all his buddies saw this encounter, and however many yards away, he saw kind of a butt sticking out of the tree. So he's like, "Oh, there's a moose right there," and made a noise, and it turned around, and it was a grizzly. And it
shit.
started sprinting at him full blast, and those fucking grizzlies can haul ass.
Yeah.
So it's sprinting at him, and he pulls up, and he knows he has one shot, and some grizzlies you can't shoot in the skull because it'll fucking ricochet off and won't even
Skulls are so
penetrate.
thick.
But my dad had one shot. This thing sprinting at him, probably 20 yards away, hits him right here, boom. And his buddies were up on a mountain watching it with their binoculars, and the
Screaming
fucking
it.
and the grizzly just tumbled right in front of him.
Wow.
Damn.
Imagine if you would have just missed. And
Imagine your dad was dead right now.
Dude,
Could have been.
it was like in the paper and some magazines, and they had like a picture of the bear's paw. And
Did you ever see The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio?
I think I did. That was
Kind of
good.
like The Sick, huh?
That was a
I
fucking
gotta
good ass
watch
show.
that. I gotta watch that. It's a movie. it's
You
always funny.
always
It's
call
always,
shows
you always
movies
do that.
or movie shows.
Yeah.
It's okay though.
Just old school with it.
God, I wish I had my conversations with my mom recorded so bad, dude.
She deep or what?
They are deep. But she's fun because she will debate with me the religion stuff. But she's so fucking brainwashed into that religion. It's insane,
Let's bring her on the
You
pod.
think she's brainwashed, but she still like has a good heart? You know
bro.
what I
She
mean?
has the best heart. She's
she's-
literally the best person.
Which is like fuck it, like let him live, I guess. You know.
Yeah, but a lot of her life's being held back because of this religion.
Mm.
Her husband, her current ex-husband, has to admit that he wasn't faithful for her. He was unfaithful to her for her to be able to remarry, according to the religion. And she hasn't talked to him. He's a fucking douchebag. He's a psychopath. And it's not like he's going to go to the religion and say, yes, I was unfaithful. That's never going to happen. So now she can't move on with her life because of that little rule.
Well, Dow wants a Christian girl, I think a Catholic girl.
Do you?
Well, he's raised that way.
I was raised. Yeah, well, we talked about this.
So do you pray?
No, I don't pray anymore, to be honest.
Really?
Damn.
Well, if
Wow, talk about a slap
I
in
mean,
the
even
face.
if I really need something, you know. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
He
I'm gonna
only
keep it a
asks God
buck.
when he
Yeah,
needs
yeah.
something.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like-
a pretty sick relationship.
It is a little new pair of Nikes or something.
Some puss.
Needs a Tesla.
Some puss, yeah. Rent for the Tesla.
Oh shit.
For real.
He gonna hate me, G. He gonna hate me when I get up
Nah,
there.
nah. He knows you're a good person. But dude, yeah, I wish I could record one of those conversations. She's gonna come down and visit in a month. I'll have her sit in on the
That'd be
pod.
sick.
It'll
It'd
be
be
fun.
fire.
But dude, the organization, any question you have to one of their rules, you can pull it up on jw.org, and they have the answer to it, the religious answer to whatever question you have.
Damn.
I'm like, it took a smart person to get all that in order.
I know. Like quotes and stuff do kind of always like fascinate me because like it's like a big psychology fuck. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But I like it because that's how brands are. Like I like the psychology of like when a big brand takes off because it's kind of cult like, you know, if you think
Mhm.
about it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fucking crazy. I'm like, Mom, some of these rules are so outdated. They sound crazy. And she just always has like some comeback, but she's always pretty open-minded. She'll listen to me, but that counter, that block in her brain, will be like, nope, counter it. Come on. Because their hope in Jehovah's Witnesses, their hope is to bring their loved ones back into the church. Just that's the hope, because then the loved ones will have everlasting life in paradise. And the 144,000 that are already chosen will go to heaven or whatever.
Because was her mom like that? Your grandma?
Yeah. Her parents were religious too. So it's just like, oh, fuck. Just
Damn.
all about the next life, all about paradise. The end's coming. The end's coming here soon. And yeah, this life sucks, but whatever. But the everlasting life's coming. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's kind of wild.
It is fucking
Because
wild.
I've heard the opposite, where it's like, well, we are in heaven right now.
Yeah.
Right now, this is heaven type of thing.
Yeah.
Depends on your perspective.
But it's fun talking to religious people that are willing to talk with you and debate.
Yeah.
Compared to religious people like, no, you whatever your beliefs, that's your beliefs.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she gets hot-headed or mad or anything.
Yeah.
She just kind of like...
But I told her too. I said, Mom, so this is your belief now. So you're shutting off every opposing view of everything. You're shutting it off. You're not even going to look at it. You're not even going to entertain it. The only site you're going to look at is jw.org. Oh my God. If you really want to learn about something, I feel like you want to look at both sides, the opposing views, the person that was an elder for 40 years and now isn't a Jehovah's Witness, what he says about it, and the people that are in it. And maybe weigh it out a little bit.
I wonder how Dal's mom would be too, because Dal's mom's super like religious.
Does she
too.
go to
She
church?
goes to church every Sunday, bro. Or if she wasn't able to go to church when COVID hit, she'd watch it on TV.
Yeah.
That's fire.
It's the older generation,
My
I
grandparents
guess.
are super heavy into that shit, bro.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good episode so far. RHR 25. We're growing slowly, and it's been fun. Patreon.com/RedHawk Academy if you want to support the show. If not, just like and subscribe. That helps out a lot too. But on Patreon, we're putting up shit every week. Discounts on the merch. You get access to the Discord. Some training tutorials. But the archive goes back years. There's shitload of stuff on there from when Sugar was coming up. There's a bunch of stuff on there that'll never go on YouTube. That's just archived on there. So if you subscribe, it's easy, $3, $5, or $10. Then you get access to all that stuff. So if you want to support it, check it out. If not, no biggie. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.
Feet are gonna shuffle in. I'm gonna throw it